Let's discuss. Hey everyone, it's Rachel back again with another video, and today I'll be checking out Gideon's record, More Power, More Pain. I covered the singles on the channel. It's sounding like some of Gideon's best material. They have solid contenders in their discography, so I think that's a pretty respectable statement. High expectations, I think, from the comments and the conversations around the singles leading up to the album, so I am excited to see how that's going to play out with the full release here. So I will link any sort of merch, support links, all of that stuff for the record in the description of this video, as well as all of Gideon's social media. Other than that, I'm going to stop talking and we are going to get straight into it. So we've got this intro, Hell for a Man, and then 2 new tracks before Too Much Is Never Enough, and then actually all 3 singles are in a row. So
you were raised to be sort of a reincarnation of your father, and you were put on stage to sing his songs.
Sure, yeah.
What did that do to you mentally?
I've got some pictures that I was looking at a while ago, and of course I was a little boy. 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16. That's all I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to put on those boots, and I wanted that hat, and I wanted everything. Just
the
like,
cowboy hat.
Just like him, see. But in the late teens, then early 20s, I didn't want to do that because I wasn't a little boy anymore. And if I did something different, boy, was that bad, you know, when I started doing things I wanted to do, and that's when it got kind of rough.
Oh, okay. That's a haunting sort of intro.
Set myself apart just to play the game.
Woo! Oh, that bass is...
So tell me I'm the one to blame when you blame. Tell me that I feel my fate. Locked down, let down, crucified by my own mistakes. I'm on my hands.
Get your pit moves ready. Ooh. All those vocals.
No satisfaction. It's always out of reach. Oh, so pull me out of the dark, or put me straight in the ground. I can't get no peace. I've been locked out.
Please. This album has got to have more of those vocals back there. This track is
to do my thing and make my music. I'm not gonna run around out there and bust my butt to be cussed and treated bad and all that stuff. No, I ain't gonna do that. It was fun for a boy, but it was hell for a man.
More insight on the like everything that's led up to the album, really, with these samples, the intro track and that. Push It Back, by the way. I can picture the live show now for this one. Oh! Connection to the single here. One of the singles.
Until the walls collapse. I wanna break everything around me. I wanna break everything. I wanna break everything around me. 'Cause everything wanna break me. There will be bloodshed. There will be bloodshed. Endless threats, no safety nets. So when the world watches you, push it back.
Oh.
Push it.
More of those samples.
But
I have no idea what they're from.
Grandpa Jones said, we don't give any crap and take very
And then I'll be going to the block of all 3 singles, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh. Okay, so all 3 singles can be found on the channel. I won't keep them in full unless they have like a different mix or something like that. Those are the only cases where I keep them on the video when I have them on the channel separately. This one is me. This one and 2 Men, I'm sorry, not this one, but this one and the title track are my favorite singles. I don't know which one I prefer. That flow is the biggest part for me. We need the full body cam for the pit moves, okay?
Keep up, or get left in the cloud of dust. Keep up, yeah. Don't slow down, too much is never enough. I put it all on the line. Cloud of dust. Keep up, don't slow down now. Too much is never enough. I came for what's mine, yeah, I'm in it for blood. About to reopen the cut. You bitches trying to drag my name through the mud. It's time that I remind you where the fuck I come from. South of heaven, north of hell, where the river runs deep and the blood gets spilled. Where dreams are born but die too young. At the bottom of the barrel of a
This is where people start sizing up during this show. All that lead up, people are like,
so bring it.
woo! Maybe that's my favorite single. It might be. It really might be. That goes so hard. I almost said for no reason, but I feel like that's a stupid, like, for a good reason. For the reason of going hard as shit. Like, ooh, what singles? I like Takeoff. It definitely introduces, like, it turns a different side that shows some. That some people love more and some people won't, but I think I go more for this, like them straight up, than the stuff that has a little spice in it, you know?
The more that it takes to carry this weight, the longer you build, the harder you break. Suck it up. Sacrifice and pain, it's the price you pay. More power, more pain. Take it from me. Life's a bitch way down in the gutter. Deep in the mud, sinking further every day. When you get hit, you better pay for another.
He's got that dirtiness to it. This is what makes it so hard to pick between Too Much Is Never Enough and this title track for me. And this one goes into Takeoff, which Takeoff I did feel like was the most unique single, though not my, you know, that ended up being my least favorite. I didn't dislike it by any means, you know, don't misread me.
I don't wanna talk. I don't wanna listen. Every time I do, the truth is always missing. I just wanna feel what I feel when I feel it. I just wanna feel what I feel now. Come on, make you feel it. Don't need your permission, already got your
This part is just so Daisy to me. It's like every time I listen to it, that's the part that's in it. And this riff. The mix up between the riff and that bass coming through there. But it ain't done. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, after this there's like 7 or 8 new tracks. What is it now? Damned if I... Yep, damned if I do yet. Damned if I don't.
Cut me down! Level with the dirt! Kiss me out! Leave me with the hurt! Everybody's gotta feel it! I guess it's my turn! I'll be just fine! Living on the outside! Damned if I do! Damned if I don't! Step back! I'll reap what I sow! Death has never felt so close, but I felt opening this room! Come on! Cut me down! Level with the dirt! Cast me damned if I do! Damned if I don't! No judge! No jury! Straight to the gallows!
Oh, yep. Just as it needs to be.
Close your eyes! Embrace the end! Step to the false self! Forget again!
Ooh, got that little bit of a...
Suffering my triumph when it refused to let me go. I succumbed to it. I embraced it, destroying every image manufactured in your fucking mind. Who am I?
I will decide!
It sounds much different than the other samples.
Level with the dirt! You can't cast me out! But you can't tell me who I am!
Woo!
Damned if I do! Damned if I don't! Step back! I'll reap what I sow! Death has never felt so close, but I felt
This is like... Get that dirt off your shoulders, but for metal.
Cut me down! Cast me out!
And I know there's gonna be something even...
Is it true that you tried to commit suicide once?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got down and did that
Okay. Okay. We're going back to
in
what...
Alabama.
Same
And I
vibe.
just
Same sample
said,
vibe.
well, and I got down in the
Where are we?
in the
In
bottom.
the album?
That's when me and this doctor got
Damned
together
if I
right
did.
after that. And, he said, you've been taught to look like, act like, sing like, be like your daddy from the word go, and you've been taught all of that. And he said, and that's exactly what's going to happen. You'll be exactly like him, except you'll be dead, and maybe at 26 or 7 instead of 29. And he said, won't that be nice? You'll have him beat.
If you love me, let me go.
If you Why is it so hard to leave my heart wide open? What do I have to do to be listened to and not just heard? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? I tried to move on and face this world alone, but I can't do this on my own. If I stayed, I would only be in your way. So let me go, and I'll go on and on and on.
Oh.
So let me go. Disconnected.
Oh, it didn't.
Silence is deafening.
Doesn't matter.
Separated, I don't touch from everything. Hope is hurting, so what's the point? In the end, it's always leaving me lonely. I tried to move on and face this world alone. I can't do this on my own. If I stayed, I would only be in your way. So let me go, and I'll go on and on and on. If I stayed, I would only be in your way. So let me go, and I'll go on. Living in the unforgiving shadows of my mind. If you love me, let me go. If you love me, let me go. If I stayed, I would only be in your way. So let me go, and I'll go on and on and on. Thinking of you every step of the way. Nobody answers when I call your name. If you love me, let me know. If you love me, let me.
One of the most sobering things in the world.
Damn, I was not expecting that.
That will sober you up so quick.
This is true.
Yeah, this is
I
true.
think I need a
The
second
Grim
after
Reaper
that one.
will get your attention. Because it's going to get you one way or the other.
Let's try to just keep moving. Let's try it.
You see the truth behind my eyes, something cooler from the inside. It pushes and pulls me back. It's a deafening silence, piercing like a siren. It feels like I'm under attack. Panic, rage, isolation, pain, hallucination.
Picking it up right after that. They're like, yeah, no. You weren't crying. Just
I'm about to go off the rails, and it's southbound. It's straight to hell. Trying to stop this train, but I'm afraid it's so damn late. Yeah, I know just where I'm headed. Off the rails. I couldn't be the one that you designed. Something told me from the inside.
oh,
To leave and to look back. In fear of defiance, I stayed in compliance of being
Feels just trying to get over. Let me go. We could pretend to be okay, but baby, we're not. Give me some mean ass breakdown. Make me forget that you hurt me. Chest bumps and some big old patriotic dudes or some shit. Alright. Alright. I'll give you that. Off the rails into what? The final nail? The final rails. Final Nail makes me think of the Acacia Strain immediately. And I just saw them live a few days ago. Final Nail. They did that in the middle of the record too, huh? If You Love Me. This is a dark and attractive sound to it. Snake in the grass. You're gonna stand to me, my fucking enemy. Oh. Oh! Oh! I don't know you anymore. I don't know you anything. To the breakdown of the year playlist, baby. You're dead to me. My fucking enemy. You're just another knife inside my back. What the fuck? Dead to me, my fucking enemy. We will be right back. No. gonna do you dirty like the end of the final nail and then just be like, anyway, it'd be hard as hell.
A voice in the void, darkness is calling. What choice but destroy? When all becomes nothing, lacerations to the bone. My soul is home through time and space. I'm falling. Cold and alone. Silence is cold until you're left. Cold and alone. Silence is cold until you're left, bitch. This emptiness, I feel in this solitude. The loneliness that I wish I never knew. Midnight setting fire to my demons, fill my lungs up with those. Silence is gold until you fall into space, fall into time.
Not somewhere vocally we've been with Gideon. I didn't forget though what the final nail just did to me. We're gonna talk about that at the end of this. That's like a fun track and everything, you know. Appreciate you, Midnight Blue, but and I don't feel like I can still be. I still feel vulnerable. Still feel like Gideon's about to come back around and be like, and also emotionally stab. Stab is how the end of the final nail felt like stab.
You can get yourself down pretty low.
Anyway,
Makes you appreciate life. Makes a lot of
that's just what I think. Okay, this is I Will Carry You. There's a track called Back to Basics on here, which I thought might be like kind of hard, but now I'm not sure what we're doing, where we're headed.
Words can begin to describe the pain that I feel inside. Memories of you consuming my mind. As long as I live, I will carry you on. Farewell, my friends, until we meet again.
Ooh, bring it back. Go ahead. This album's doing more for me than I expected range-wise, and like, I cried. It does make me wonder, where are we gonna go for the next, like, I think there's like 4.5, 5 when it's like the album after this. Yeah, this is the last, like, full song. I think the last one's a minute and a half, so. This is the one I felt like would be hard, like, in classic sounding. Oh! Also, if it hasn't clicked with you once, you're just listening to it the first time and it's not clicking for you, this is you by the 5th time. So at least be the last 30 seconds. I don't know what's about to happen, but especially with the last track being a minute and a half, I'm curious if it will be like, oh. I'm curious if it'll be like a outro-y, or if it'll be hard as shit, just a minute and a half of here's the ass, rabbit, ass people. Back to basics. Interesting. Not what I thought for sure when I mentioned before. I thought it was just going to be like a track going back to the basics, you know? Alright, let her fly. Minute and a half. What? A minute and a half of what?
And looking back over everything that's happened to you in your life, aren't you totally amazed at what
I'm
you've
amazed
accomplished?
at getting through all the junk, yeah. I'm amazed about that.
I imagine that's
Okay.
knowing that you weren't crazy back then.
That's a good feeling, yeah. I think that's that's a good way of looking at it. I wasn't crazy after all.
Okay, so probably a minute and a half. Not an ass. I mean, I guess you could. You know, if you got this style of ass beating. Interesting to imagine, but okay. I'm gonna go something more. Yeah, I'm still probably gonna go title track or Too Much Is Never Enough. But anyway, that's it, I guess, huh? Gideon, more power, more pain. Let's discuss. I needed to put on a sweatshirt before doing the outro, but I am very happy with this record. I think that given we got 3 singles, I don't think that there was a ton of diversity between the 3. So I think the album had a chance of kind of getting a bit, like, when chunks of the new songs sound kind of similar and they don't really hold a lot of identity on their own and you kind of like blur them together on first listen, for me that's a sign of the album being a little bit forgettable and stuff, and I felt like with the lack of diversity in the singles that was something that was possible to happen but really didn't. I think that the non-singles provided a lot more that I wasn't really expecting, like pretty much out of the gate. Hell for a Man is obviously an intro track, so that doesn't really count for it. It sets the tone for a lot of the samples that are used throughout the music. I think it kind of ties into the cowboy hat and the message that the members of Gideon are expressing through this album, so that like being in the intro makes sense. And then you go into Locked Out of Heaven, and on that chorus having the singing, that was something that really surprised me, and I felt like provided a bit of, off the bat, really a bit more variety than what was provided in the singles, because with Take Off I felt like you get the turntables, you get a little bit more leaning into that new sound, so though it does provide a difference like between Too Much Is Never Enough and the title track. And don't get me wrong, I would actually rank those singles Too Much Is Never Enough, the title track, and then Take Off. Take Off is, even though it provides that diversity, it's still my least favorite of the 3 because I like those really tough singles, the grooviness that was there. So it's not to say that I don't like the sound that was laid out with the singles, because that's certainly not the case. With Gideon, they have that toughness, they have, and with their production being where it's at now as well, I feel like this is the best that their production has been. So they're able to kind of let that all translate as well as they wanted to. And I think it does extremely well with some of these breakdowns, with just some of those really tough moments. But anyway, getting back on topic, the breakdowns in Locked Out of Heaven, the chorus on it, that track was a really strong start out for non-singles for me. That ended up being a contender for one of my favorites, though it's not in my top 1 or 2 after the album plays out, which is also another good sign. But starting off with Locked Out of Heaven being the first non-single, I think that was a very strong move. It got me like excited to see what the rest of the non-singles would hold. The last breakdown, I feel like, really kind of drove the end of the song home, and like the toughness and grooviness that was there. But they had laid out that chorus, which provided something a little bit different. So I really liked that. Going into that from Push It Back, having those lyrics that say, I think it was like, I want to break everything around me or something. I thought that was kind of funny because I'm pretty sure that will be somewhat reflective of the listening experience for a lot of people. The chorus has a similar catchiness to me as Take Off. I find the Take Off chorus really catchy. I think it's got to do with the style of vocals, the echoing of Take Off in the chorus. A lot of aspects make it very catchy, and I think Push It Back contained some of those in its chorus, though maybe slightly less catchy, because it's really like that echoing of Take Off that drives it so much further for me for that song. But it still had a similar type of catchiness, I think, in the way that the structure of that chorus, it just contained something similar that I'm not quite sure. It had a very interesting chord progression on the main riff. It made it very fun, a little bit different than some of the guitar work that's been laid out thus far. The breakdown at the end of the song, again on this one, it has that groove to it. It's thorough enough for my liking. It felt like a decent sized breakdown at the end of the song there. So using the ends of the songs to kind of put a period at the end of the heaviness with all of that, but then going in. So the block of 3 singles that come after Locked Out of Heaven and Push It Back, I'm not a huge fan of that, though. Once you get through that, even more so if it's like towards the end of the album, having it earlier on in the album is not as bad, because then once you get through the 3 songs that you already know, you've got a ton of tracks that are brand new for you. But kind of going into 3 new tracks, or 3 old tracks in a row. Come on, brain. It just, there's something about it for me that I'm like, okay, these, when there's not like an evident, like, you know, them rolling into each other or being connected and stuff like that, it's not my favorite thing, but also not like a huge deduction or anything like that. Like I mentioned, the singles, the way that they're laid out on the album, it's like Too Much Is Never Enough, then the title track, then Take Off. That is the order in which I enjoy them the most. So having Too Much Is Never Enough as that first single, I think it continues the energy that's set out in the beginning of the album very well. That track is tough. It's groovy. So is More Power, More Pain. Those 2 tracks really kind of drive into that, like the more meaty section of their sound, which was I think would be really shocking for everyone if they hadn't done that with the singles. Gideon stays true to their sound throughout this whole record, don't get me wrong, but I do think they added a little bit of spice in there that I hope we'll continue to see from them. I think Locked Out of Heaven is a great example of that, and then there is some more that we'll get to eventually. But anyway, I like the order of the singles, if that was how it was going to be with all 3 of them in a row. That's probably the order that I would pick for them to go in. So more groove as you continue into the title track, then Take Off kind of introduce that, like the turntable sound and some elements that I don't think were very present leading up to that point. So that section for me, a little bit indifferent about it. Wasn't like super discouraged by the 3 singles in a row. Didn't love it either though. So after you get through the singles, you go into Damned If I Do, Damned If I Don't. That track, it has another tough feel to it, especially in the chorus. This one takes shape of a very tough chorus, I would say, where some of them, like Locked Out of Heaven is a great example, completely opposite approach to that chorus. But this one has a tough chorus. It definitely feels like a kind of main focus of the song. You have some atmosphere back there in the chorus, nothing too crazy or overwhelming or like Animate Rivera style, but it's definitely present, something that you can hear, especially if you have a good pair of headphones on or a solid speaker. It's tough, it's groovy, it's got breakdowns, not something that sticks out to me compared to the other tracks, I mean, very much when you look at the rest of the track list, but still a song that fits like right in as a piece of the puzzle, has that groove to it, has that toughness to it, kind of like an ass beat feeling chorus. And to go from that track into If You Love Me, Let Me Go, which I love that song. That song was a standout track for me. If You Love Me, Let Me Go, that is probably my favorite track on the record, but it is kind of a toss-up here. And there were just so many things about that track that I really loved. It's gorgeous. It's another one that was a little bit unexpected for me. The breakdown the first breakdown in that track, I believe it might be the only breakdown in that track, was kind of what solidified that for me, though it has that emotive feel to it. It has some moments that are more vulnerable in it. It still carries that aggression, which translates incredibly well because you're getting the emotion that's, being presented in different ways leading up to that point, but in that angry sort of way, bringing in the more aggressive elements. I just love that song. The guitar work on it, especially in the chorus. The chorus is where it shines for me, and I think it's just as beautiful in the guitar work as like the message behind the song, and like being that vulnerable with your lyrics, that sort of thing. So the chorus kind of drives a knife right into my heart in a good way. So If You Love Me, Let Me Go, a highlight track for me, not an expected track for me. Off the Rails comes after that and picks the pace back up, and probably another standout track for me. And not that this record ever really slows too far down either. I say pick back up the pace, and I mean for the overall, pacing of this record. It's got, a fast pace to it, but there are moments where it does take time to kind of slow down and be a bit more vulnerable, I think, with some of what they're touching on. And though they're using samples that are from, I looked it up, and it's like Hank Williams Jr., who is a country artist, so that's where the samples that you're hearing are from. But anyway, so Off the Rails, that it picks the pace back up, at least in terms of If You Love Me, Let Me Go being one of the more tame songs on this record. It's got so much space to it, so much room for that groove to kind of just come through. The first breakdown is a great example of exactly what I'm talking about with that. And then you have the slowdown when it gets to that, what are the lyrics at that part? I think it's There's Nothing You Can Say is the part that I'm talking about. That's a peak part of the song for me. The sound is so stank face inducing. The final breakdown puts a period at the end of the sentence, kind of drives that what I'm talking about with the There's Nothing You Can Say part even further. Just a very groovy, aggressive track. So that those two are very different in sound, but are two that are highlights for me on the record. And then really this run of tracks up to I Will Carry You is probably my favorite run of the record. It's just got a lot of variety in terms of this album. So anyway, after that it goes into the final nail. It's got very cool leads on that track. It's groovy, like that's what I'm looking for really here too with Gideon. They have such a deep groove to them, and then just the way the vocals are delivered makes it so tough as well. And like No Love, No One is a great example of everything that I love about this band. Except now their production, I think, is sounding even better with More Power, More Pain. So I guess that would be like the one thing. But the song No Love, No One, the breakdowns, the call-outs, the instrumentals, all of that is everything that I love about this band. And that was the song that got me really paying attention to what they were doing too, because I had heard Cold. I had Cold on the rotation. I had it on vinyl. I have for a while, and I liked it. But then when I heard No Love, No One, I was like, oh my god, I need to see this live. And I did, and it was amazing. But anyway, going back into what I was talking about, the final nail feels like it has a very cool guitar work on it, very neat leads. That was what stuck out to me a lot. Vocal patterns, which, like I was just saying, that's really something that I've been drawn to, and like the aggression that's just like pretty consistent throughout their discography. But anyway, vocal patterns and the delivery vocally were a huge draw for me when it came to the final nail. Midnight Blue has a lot of fun guitar work, riffs from the drop as well. The production really stands out in that track as well. It's got moments where the bass comes shining through, very bassy track. That's probably the one that has like the most present bass, which makes it one that I will be doing revisiting to. And then I Will Carry You is just such a beautiful track. It starts out with that more like twangy intro, and I was wondering if it was going to be a track that was like real different for this record, but then it settles into something that's more in line with what you hear, but at the same time takes that vulnerable sort of approach, goes for the heartstrings. So while it's beautiful, it still brings, I think that would have been a perfect closing track for this record, because it has the softer sides of this record in it. It's got the aggression as well. It brings in like, the elbows up sound to it. Really kind of fuses those two things together incredibly well, which I think are the two sounds really if if you're being vague at least. But there are two sounds that you really get on this record that aren't, you don't get a whole lot of softer stuff, but that's new, I feel like, for Gideon, kind of showing those moments and stuff. So with that being the case on this record, I think that I Will Carry You would have been a really, an emotive close to the record, a good kind of fusion of what you get on the record. So then going into Back to Basics, I think that track would have hit harder for me somewhere else in the track list, like earlier in the record, because it is an ass beater too. It brings that energy. It's got, it's not like this one track has different production and doesn't sound good from a production standpoint. It does sound good from a production standpoint. It just kind of felt weird to go in from, If You Love Me, Let Me Go, into Off the Rails, The Final Nail, Midnight Blue, where it does feel like it sort of picked that pace back up and then went back down with I Will Carry You to sort of something more emotional, something more, something less pissed, I guess, and then to pick it back up with Back to Basics, and then have Let Her Fly as like the true outro of the album too. It just seemed like an interesting choice for me, and it wasn't really like the ending of the album that I felt like really spoke to what I had just listened to. So it was an interesting choice for sure, something I definitely, that was what I was talking about in the beginning of the outro when I said that there was something that took a few points off for me, like as an overall record too. I feel like I'm going to rearrange it and listen to Back to Basics somewhere different in the track listing and see if that feels different for me and gives me a different feel when I close the record. But again, this has a lot of songs that I will be revisiting, a lot of songs that I felt like did provide a bit of variety compared to what the singles had laid out. I did think that there might be a little bit more of that new metal sound, which I'm not the biggest fan of stuff that's new metalcore. Like the stuff that I listen to is stuff that I've recently gotten into, and I was never a big Slipknot fan or anything in the roots of what I listened to. I came from more of like a post-hardcore type of background, and it's just not something that I ever really had incorporated into my regular listening. So it wasn't like I was crossing my fingers hoping for like a super new metal record from Gideon. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised with the points of the record that I did feel provided that contrast or a bit of variety. They were different than what I had been expecting them to be. I was expecting more turntables and kind of some electronic presence in there and stuff, but it really took a more emotional route in some areas. Very lightly, it's still an ass beater record for sure, undoubtedly. Randy LaBeouf did an amazing job on the production. I think that the guitar work has a great mixture of the more chuggy Gideon guitar work and then some riffs and pieces of guitar work that were just more, I guess, more melodic maybe, but at the same time just something a little bit different to them, even from I guess production standpoint as well, different tone, different styles. So a bit of variety there vocally. Yeah, the production was a huge win for me on this record. I feel like everyone in the band really was able to come through, and it translated really well. Like I was mentioning with Midnight Blue, having that bass coming through, pretty much there are a lot of parts of that song. I was trying to say track and song at the same time. Song where I felt the bass was just coming through and sounding absolutely remarkable from a vocal standpoint. It's the case from the beginning all the way through. I feel like they're at a very good place in the mix, but also production-wise, this is just, I feel like Gideon's best work. It's their cleanest sounding album to me. Gives everything a chance to really shine that needs to. So yeah, those are my thoughts after first listen. I'm really happy with this. I need to listen to Back to Basics in a different area. Let Her Fly, I probably won't need to include in my revisits, or, it's not a type of track that I felt it really connected with Back to Basics so much that I would pair them up when I'm listening outside of the album. But not an album that I felt like immediately any songs really stuck out to me as tracks that I'll skip so much, other than Let Her Fly. Back to Basics didn't feel deserving of an end of the record spot for me, but it wasn't a song that I disliked. So those are my thoughts after my first listen. I will link all of Gideon's promotional links for the record, anywhere you can get a physical copy or merch from the record. All their social media, all of that stuff will be in the description of this video, so make sure if you enjoyed this and you're able to, go check that stuff out. You'll also be able to find my link tree in the description, which will have the Patreon. We've got monthly live streams for patrons. I make playlists / mixtapes for tier 3 people. We've got a new series that's coming out this month. There's just a kind of a lot going on there, so if you're interested in seeing what is offered in the tiers on my Patreon, that will be there, as well as the invite link for the Discord server, which is where the community is based for my YouTube channel. We've got a bunch of music lovers just running a community with music-related conversation unrelated to music. Just kind of a lot happening. So if you're interested in joining, checking that out, that will be there. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it.